David, in the aftermath of the referendum, we've seen how pro-life voices have essentially been sidelined in the Irish media. Have you noticed that to be the case in your experience as director of the own institute?
Well, I mean, I think RTE is a particular offender here. I singled them out because RTE is the national broadcaster. But since the passage of the abortion referendum, there's been hardly a pro-life voice to be heard on RTE or to be seen on RTE. I'm not aware of any major pro-life figure that's been on since May 26th and the immediate aftermath. There's been a couple of doctors on discussing conscience issues who want their conscience rights protected, but I'm not aware of any senior pro-life person invited onto any of the RTE programmes, even to debate the legislation, with the possible exception of maybe Ronan Mullen, I think might have been at one point on to discuss some of the amendments. But for the most part what we've had is, and a good example was the end of year review panels on various of the RTE discussion programmes looking back on the events of 2018, and it was all totally celebratory. What a wonderful thing had happened at the end of May in terms of the 2-to-1 vote. So it looks like what's been decided is, because it was a 2-to-1 vote, it is now a settled issue. Doesn't need to be discussed anymore in any serious way, but it is now considered to be an issue that is beyond debate completely. This is why, I talk about the national broadcaster in particular, because they get all this money from us, the licence fee payers, and therefore they must be more respectful of the various types of opinion which exist out there. And even if it was a 2-to-1 vote last May, it's still the case that a third of voters voted no, and their voices are not heard anymore. So in 1983, the pro-life side won in a 2-to-1 margin. So it was a similar size victory to last May. But the last thing RTE did was decide this is now a settled issue, and so we don't have to have pro-choice voices really on RTE radio or television anymore. On the contrary, they probably increased the number of opportunities that pro-choice voices had in 1983, despite the fact they lost 2-to-1 in that referendum. RTE basically went into overdrive to try and reverse that decision, and so the 8th was put under constant critical scrutiny in a way that this law will not be. This law will not be put under critical scrutiny, and that is why it is extremely important that the pro-life groups develop their own ways like this of getting their message out independently to their supporters and the wider public.